Hello everyone, welcome to my another video. So in this video we are going to talk about the Axios framework in ReactJS, how we can use the Axios to make HTTP request, get the data and then use the data and display that data in the screen. So in order to use the Axios framework, first we need to install or include that framework to our application. So you can install it using npm. So npm install then Axios library, or maybe you can use it inside the package.json and then you can do an npm install. So I have this Axios library already installed here, so I can start using it in my application. Okay. So, and I have here a very simple application. What it does is it has I've created a component axios.js. Okay, and I'm calling it from the app.js. So I have created only one component and this component is being rendered inside the app.js. So if you go to Axios test, so what it does is it has a state which is data, and the data has multiple objects and each has an ID and the name. Okay, and what I'm doing inside the render method is I'm just looping through that state data.map. I'm taking each element and then I'm displaying that element dot ID and the name and with a pipe symbol. So I should see 1, then ID 1, then pipe mark, and in the next line I should see the ID as 2 and then name John. Okay, and then I have a button here, just call an API. So if you run the application now, I should be able to see like 1 pipe mark and then 2 pipe John. So let's see. Here you go. So you can see 1 mark, 2 John, and then I have but call API. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is, so I will create a function when you hit the button, and that button and the function will be invoked when you hit the call API button. And what that button does is it will call a HTTP request. It will get some data, and we will try to set the data into our state and then refresh the UI. Okay. So for the API, I am using the JSON placeholder.tpcode.com. So this will provide you some free APIs which you can play around. Okay. So I am using the users API of this. So if you go to this API, you can see you just need to, if you call this URL, API URL, it's a GET request. So if you call this API, it will return you this response. And I have like multiple objects inside this, and I have ID, name, etc. here. So what I will do is I will call this API, get this response, and I will display all this ID and name in my screen. Okay, let's see how we can do it using Axios. So let me copy this URL, API URL. Okay, now I'll go here. First thing is I have to import the Axios from library Axios. Okay, now I'll define a function here. So on click equal to this dot call API. This is the function I'm calling. So call API. I'm creating an arrow function here. So what I want to do here is I will invoke this Axios call here. So Axios, this is how you call HTTP request using Axios. Okay, Axios, inside this you have to provide the URL. Okay, so I'm just putting the URL you copy from there, and I can say method is get, using a get method, and Axios is a promise, so it returns a promise. So I have to handle the success case here. So then the success method, and I have to handle the catch the failure scenario here. So I'm writing an arrow function inside that. Okay, so This will call the API. If the API is successful, it returns the I'll get the response here, okay, and then if there is an error, the error will come here, okay. So what I will do is I'll just print it to see if I'm actually getting the response, okay, response, and then I'll put here console.log of error. So let's call this. So I have the call API button. On clicking this, it will call the call API, and this will invoke the Axios, and I should get the response. Okay, let's trigger the API. Let's load the application and see if it works or not. Okay, so I'm refreshing and call API. If I click on it, yes, so it called the API. I got the response here. Okay, and I can see inside the data I have all that data which we saw there, which we saw here, right? I got all the data here. Okay, so this is how we can make a HTTP GET request. Let's see how we can set that data returned by the API into a state, and then how we can display that in the UI, right? So response.data is where I get the actual data, right? So response.data is I'm getting the ID and the name. Okay, so what I will do is I will set this dot set state of my data is going to be response.data. So if I set this, my data state will get all the data which is returned by the API, which will have all these names, and then it should render all the data which is returned by the API. Okay, let's see. I'm refreshing the screen and then call the API. Here you go. It renders the response or the data which is returned by the API. Okay, so this is how we can make a GET request, and if you want to make a POST request, it's again pretty simple. Post, and then just change the method to POST, and then you can pass the data here. So if you have some payload to be added to the the API request, you can set the payload here. So I don't have an API available here. I think yeah, there is some way that we can make a POST request to the same API to add a new user, but I don't know what is the actual data to be passed. I have to explore some more, but this is pretty much so. If you have a use case like you have to use a POST request, you can just attach the data here and then you call it. It should work. So this is the syntax, and then that's pretty much it, how we can use an Axios to make an HTTP call. So that's all I planned for this video. I hope you learned something from this tutorial. If you did learn something, please hit the like button and share this video with your friends. And do subscribe to my channel if you have not subscribed yet. And thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye. Take care.